we need to have a little discussion. I wanted to have a little discussion about the incident happening at the Great Australian Bight with the oil company Equinor, which is a Norwegian oil company, wanting to drill oil or have oil explorations out of the Great Australian Bight. The Great Australian Bight houses some of the most pristine water conditions in all of Australia. It's got some of the best coastal beaches and is a major tourist hotspot with some of Australia's largest tourist companies using the area and getting a bunch of money. It's also a primary migratory spot for a lot of southern right whales. And this occurs during winter. And this attracts a lot of people to use a lot of the cliff faces that you see in the Great Australian Bight to watch the whales migrate. It's a great spectacle. I don't know if you can hear the rain. It's raining right now. That may be a problem for the audio. The Great Australian Bight also houses a large portion of the great white shark community through their migratory patterns across the area. The problem here is that great white sharks are listed as a vulnerable species within Australia. They're also experiencing major population declines around the world. Now, Equinor wishes to drill oil off the coast of the Great Australian Bight. This isn't the first time that a company has wanted to drill oil off the GAB. In 2016, BP, a multinational British oil company, wished to drill oil off the Great Australian Bight, however soon withdrew their proposition due to a lot of the knockback from, hold up, I've written this down, the National Offshore Petroleum Safety and Environmental Management Authority. If you expect me to remember that, buddy, you got something coming. Now, the Wilderness Society, a not-for-profit, non-government organization, has actually created a map explaining, or I guess showing, the potential effects of an oil spill that may occur from drilling in the Great Australian Bight. What they found was catastrophic damages may incur along the southern coastline of Australia. And these catastrophic conditions can cause damages to coastlines, affect major ecosystems, cause cascading effects in biodiversity, and overall shut down fisheries along the southern coastline. Not a good thing for fishing companies. They'd be pissed. Alright, what I want to do here is quickly look at this from a scientific point of view, because I myself am a marine scientist. I have my degree, and what's the point of me having a degree if I'm not going to use it? So before I end off this video, let's do that. Okay, we've got a picture of Australia right here. Now let's look at the currents that surround the southern parts of Australia. You've got the Tasman Current, the Leeuwin Current, as well as the Antarctic Circumpolar Current further offshore, which during winter periods can bring water up to the southern coastline, following the Tasman Current. Now, going off of what the Wilderness Society has done, say if the oil spilled, this black dot, right where they want to drill the oil, right? It would be picked up by these currents and travel along the coastline. You saw that, I showed you that. But what this doesn't tell you is, what about the deep water currents? So below the surface currents, which are your Leeuwin, below your surface currents, you've got subsurface and you've got deep water currents. Now these deep water currents are extremely unpredictable and quite complex. And what I mean by that is surface currents usually travel quite simply in one direction, and they will follow this direction, they'll follow this current. If you go further down, you then start to experience what's known as Ekman's spiral, and this spiral means, quite simply, that the water does a slow 180 and travels in the opposite direction to its counterpart at the surface. So if oil were to spill and get trapped by these currents, it's quite unlikely we'll be able to predict where that's going to head to a T. And I can't forget the upwelling that occurs during winter along the GBA, which brings a fluctuation of nutrients into the ecosystem, and this may have huge effects on where the oil may travel. Okay, so what are the pros and cons to having Equinor take oil out of the Great Australian Bight? Well, your pros are basically you're going to have more jobs for Australian people. I believe it's considered to give out 150 to 200,000 jobs for Australian citizens, and I think 350,000 jobs overall for both Australian and international citizens. Another pro would mainly be that Australia starts to expand its, that's what I'm looking for, expand its reach, and I guess gain a better ally in Norway. The cons, there's a lot of them. You've got environmental destruction potentially through oil spills. You've got high, rough seas out in the Great Australian Bight. You've got an outrage in community and environmental planning. You don't know whether or not you can cap the oil spill fast enough for it to have a little effect on the environment. And we don't know how far the oil will spread in deep water currents. Once it's there, and it's hard to get rid of. So the cons outweigh the pros. So are we going to put this oil company or drilling expedition into place and jeopardize such a pristine environment, or are we just going to can it like what we did in 2016? It's the government's decision, and they need to make the right one. Alright, so Australia and its government need to decide. We've rejected oil drilling along the Great Australian Bight once with BP. We need to do that again and maintain that resolve. We need to be a voice for the voiceless. We need to protect the environment, the place that keeps us alive. Without a healthy, maintained ecosystem or environment, be it marine or terrestrial, there's no us. We are nothing. I'll leave you with this. Water and air, two essential fluids on which all life depends, have now become a global garbage can. But I will see you guys next time. Remember to educate and don't eradicate. And I will catch you later. Oh, you guys hear that? Damn, what was that? I'm alright. Jesus Christ.